Then state in comparative perspective. This is just an extension of topic 1, characteristic and changing nature of the state in capitalist and. But democracy needs to percolate down. Okay, democracy needs to come down to the bottom. It needs to reach out to all the people. Emergence of more than two great powers is multipolarity. Then there are emerging powers, aspiring powers like India. Now, multi-alignment is not even written in your syllabus. But because the current Indian foreign policy follows multi-alignment, here comes the question. Okay, you understand the need for being aware of what's happening around you. Okay, third world is no longer the term is global south. Now what India does there? Socialist economies and the CMEA. What this CMEA was doing for socialists, the second world जिसको कहते थे, USSR and their allies. Israel versus Palestine, Israel versus Iran. Okay, Saudi Arabia versus Iran. Syrian crisis, the fall of Assad, the emergence of STS. Who is the president?
Congratulations on clearing UPSC 2024. Watching you succeed is really inspiring.
Thanks. I have been in your shoes. I know how overwhelming the start feels.
Exactly. There's so much to cover, I don't even know where to begin.
I felt the same. That's why I joined the GS Foundation course by Vision Eyes, which offers structured classes, expert faculty, and regular revision. It gave me clarity and momentum.
And you stayed consistent with it?
Yes, I followed the complete roadmap offered by the course. If you're aiming for 2026, start with this course. It offers you holistic coverage with every stage of the exam covered seamlessly. This is where your journey will truly begin.
Got it. I will definitely explore the course. Where can I find the details?
Just visit their website or call on the given numbers.
Hello, good afternoon. I'll be discussing the details syllabus of paper 2 of your optional PSIR. And by this time, you must be aware of the utility of this subject, why this subject, studying this subject makes sense for your exam, the overlapping with the GS to an extent with your paper 1 in history, in ethics, in essay, and mostly with GS paper 2. इन सब पे पता चल गया होगा अभी तक. And just one, you can take a glance at your GS paper 2 syllabus to be aware of what we are saying here, that yes, it matches with your GS paper 2, that is polity, governance, social justice and IR. Almost 90% of syllabus is already covered here. Okay, so I will not be highlighting that because I think you have covered it. Starting with the paper 2, the GS paper, optional paper 2, it again, like any other optional, is divided into two parts, part A and part B. Okay, paper 2 also is divided into part A and part B. So part A here talks about comparative politics. Part B is more about the international relations. Now, you have just discovered your syllabus of paper 1, And in paper 1 part A, you came across topics like political ideologies, thinkers, so on and so forth. So an extension of that part A from paper 1 you will find here as well. So in order to understand these topics, in order to study, and every year, in fact this year also, every year you get one question from either of these two topics. Every year, there is no exception to what I'm saying. You get one question from these topics, maybe for 15 marks or 20 marks. So how to study this topic? This is quite theoretical. These themes like comparative politics, nature and major approaches, these are theories. But these theories are not studied in isolation. You have to link it with your paper 1. Okay, the theories that you study there in paper 1, especially not in the IGP, the paper 1 part A part will be very useful here. All this economy, political economy and political sociology perspective, limitations of comparative models. So these are elaborate theories. Okay, and the good thing is that these theories do not change. Okay, theories are static in nature. So just like I'm repeatedly saying this, part A of paper 1, this part is also largely theoretical in nature, and there is a huge linkage with your paper 1. Without having a sound knowledge of paper 1 part A, you will not be able to do this part properly. If you understand that well, this will be a cakewalk because of the integration part that I said. Then state in comparative perspective. This is just an extension of topic 1, characteristic and changing nature of the state in capitalist and socialist economies. So state here, government is the visible aspect of the state. So when we talk about the nature of state in capitalist and socialist economy, where do you think state will have a more dominant role? Any idea here? State will be performing more assertive work in socialist economies or capitalist economies? Socialist economies. Why? Because it's a command economy. Everything is done by the state. Okay. So their state does almost everything in socialist economy. What happens when capitalist economy emerges? When market forces take over, state becomes more of a regulator. The role remains, but the role changes. So that we will be analyzing in detail in this topic. And advanced industrial and developed societies. What make these societies advanced? Why some societies, some countries are industrial and some are not? Why some of them are still developing? So what are the various factors and how state contributes to it? What role state plays there? So that's what the topic is, state in comparative perspective. You have to compare the role of the state with different perspective, different political systems, different economic system. And you get question without fail from these topics every year. One question almost is there. Then you see this topic, politics of representation and participation, political parties, pressure groups and social movement. So this we will not confine only to India. We will be giving international examples and we will cite from other countries as well. So what is this politics of representation and participation? That is the essence of democracy. But democracy needs to percolate down. Okay, democracy needs to come down to the bottom. It needs to reach out to all the people. Bottom of the pyramid, jisko bolte hain. So how it happens? It happens through pressure groups and social movements. So here you will come across the subaltern movement and the various movements that have happened in India, in the world also. So the theory would be there, but the example need to be recent. Okay, this year you got a topic, a question about feminism and red lipstick movement. So in feminism, that is something you study in your paper 1. 4 waves are there, 4 waves of feminism, but syllabus nowhere mention the red lipstick movement. Okay, similarly Me Too movement. So these are the off late movements. Okay, that's what I'm saying, that theories would be static. The contemporary examples and the contemporary perspectives need to be there. If you want good marks, you need to keep an eye on these developments. Then globalization. Now this topic, this particular word is mentioned 3 times in your paper 2. Two words, non-aligned movement and globalization. They find mention thrice in your paper 2, in your syllabus. Now response from developed and developing societies. So how, because there is a concern in developing societies that globalization has resulted into more inequity. It has created haves and have-nots. and developed countries are using the pretext of globalization to make inroads into developing countries, selling them their finished products. Then what WTO says here, what NIEO says here, all these things in detail we have to study here, okay, related to globalization and the impact on India as well. How India now plans to move ahead in the era of globalization, and what will happen to the commitment of welfare state over here. So all these different perspectives we understand here, we try to understand here with latest examples. Then you see approaches to the study of international relation. Now when you study international relations for your GS, okay, for your paper 2, not for your optional, there you don't study these approaches. There you simply start with India, neighboring countries, world, blocks, you understand the combination of countries, EU, African Union, ASEAN, BRICS, all these things you do there, okay. But here you go before what resulted in these theories. So international relation actually starts from the idealist theory. Now from where idealist theory says, again the house is divided here. Some scholars believe it starts from Treaty of Westphalia in 17th century. Some say no, it became more prominent after First World War, the end of First World War. So we will analyze both these events in details. And what is idealism? Now idealism you study in your paper 1. That's what I said, that you need to connect with paper 1. Idealism you study in paper 1. The idealist theory of IR you study in paper 2. So before understanding idealist theory of IR, you need to be aware of what is idealism. What idealist thinkers are saying, what are the proponents, what are the components of idealism, what are the limitations to it, what has been the response of realist to idealist, on what basis they criticize idealist. Similarly, same about realist theory. Now again, for realist theory you need to know what is realism, who came up with the theory of realism, okay, what do they say. From realism you will understand what is collective security, what is balance of power. These all concepts are related to each other. Then Marxist theory, for that you need to understand Marxism. What is the Marxist theory of IR? That you will be able to get only when you know what is Marxism. So from where Marxism emerges, what Marx calls, before him there existed what he calls the socialism in a very rudimentary form, and he claimed to have corrected it by offering a scientific explanation. What is dialectics, okay, all his Marxist methods, and what the final culmination would be into the ideal communist state. So once you understand the details of Marxism, the various process, the various tools that he uses, what is surplus value, what is his view on religion, what is Marx's view on nationalism and society and family and individual, only then the theories will extrapolate themselves here, okay. Marxist theory के पहले Marxism समझना पड़ता है. Functionalist and systems theory. Now functionalism is a different thing altogether. It's not rooted in ideology, it's rooted in process. Same goes true for systems theory, and you get questions from these theories. So these 5 topics that you are seeing here, they are mostly theoretical, okay, largely connected with your paper 1 part A, and the examples that you need to quote need to be recent. These are the things that we need to keep in mind. Questions are often repeated, okay. Questions इसमें topics में कई बार मतलब themes would be same, no room for enough innovation here. Your answers need to differ, your answers need to have the updated content. That is where you get marks. Now moving on to the next part, the next thing, the key concepts in international relations. So when we study IR, every country tries to pursue national interest. What exactly is national interest? Any idea? How do you define national interest? Nation first policy, whatever benefits my country, I'll do that. So this is what realists also say. This is what pragmatist thinkers also say. Pragmatism means whatever is good for us, we'll do it. Okay, no need to go for long-term concerns. Then security and power, the concept of security and collective security. One is safe when all is safe. This is what is called collective security. Balance of power, how it is there, and the deterrence theory. Now what is deterrence? What stops a country to attack the other country? This is called deterrence. What is the deterrence that a country possesses? Is it only confined to hard power? So in concept of power, we study all that. Joseph Nye gave the concept of hard power, soft power, and even of smart power. So how a country perpetuates its national interest using the combination of these three powers, you need to relate and understand. Okay. Then national interest without power, you will not be able to understand. So by default, we need security and power to comprehend what national interest is. And so many examples are floating around us of late. Then the transnational actors, who are called as transnational actors? Any idea? UN is multilateral. Again, how is multilateralism different from multipolarity? Multipolarity challenges American hegemony. Multilateralism aids to it. Okay, post this, I'm just giving you a glimpse of a blueprint of this paper 2. Post Second World War, the order that exists, that we continues to exist, is the US-led order, also called the Anglo-Saxon system, the transatlantic system, and how it is being controlled through multilaterals, through likes of UN, through WTO, Bretton Woods institutions, IMF, World Bank, so on and so forth. Now that contributes to US hegemony. Multipolarity is when another player emerges, when other great powers are there. Great powers are only defined in terms of their military capacity and their demography. Only 3 countries today qualify as great powers. You know the names. Can you guess? Yes, Russia is there, China, and US. Yahi तीनों हैं great power. So emergence of more than 2 great powers is multipolarity. Then there are emerging powers, aspiring powers like India, Saudi Arabia. Are you understanding this? South Africa, Brazil. So all this is multipolarity, which challenges American hegemony, which is Americans try to maintain through what they call multilateral system. So transnational refers to those organizations which function cutting across the countries. It can be private entity, it can be civil society, open society. Suno na? Okay, it can be organizations like Gates Foundation. It can be Oxfam, who claims to fight for equality. So all these cutting across the borders, they operate, and at times they try to arm twist the government. They try to mold the state. So this transnationals raise question mark on the sovereignty aspect as well. Okay. इसी में concept आता है, though not mentioned in your syllabus, what is heteropolis? Now to explain heteropolis, because we are discussing, I am trying to explain what transnationals are, closely connected with heteropolis. When Russia-Ukraine war started, the Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine reached out to Elon Musk and told him, please provide us, requested him, please provide us with Starlinks. Okay, because Russia has destroyed our communication system, we need Starlinks. Elon provided him with Starlinks. And they were able to defend themselves against the Russian onslaught at that very moment. Later on, Ukraine requested Elon Musk for extending Starlinks to Crimea. Elon refused and said, if I do that, that would be Pearl Harbor movement for Russia. I will not do that. Now, all this when Elon Musk was not even remotely connected to the government. Briefly, he was part of government during Donald Trump, right? This tenure, briefly, जब तक दोनों में झगड़ा नहीं हुआ. But during Biden administration, he was not even remotely connected. He was criticizing the Democrats. Now, Ukraine's deputy prime minister did not reach to American president. He reached out to one individual. And he decides when I will extend Starlink facility to you and when I'll not. Based on his sole discretion. This is what is heteropolis. Okay. So don't you think they dilute sovereignty? So such examples you need to know. These things should be in your answers. Then see the next thing, rise of superpowers. And before that you see changing international political order. So how political order keeps on changing. World, earlier it was bipolar during the Cold War. Then collapse of Soviet Union happened, it became unipolar. From 1999, the second pole has tried to emerge, China. Today, world is more multipolar than ever. So here we will see the rise of superpowers. What are the factors that make a country superpower? Apart from the military might, the soft power also contributes, the hard power and the smart power. All three have equal contribution. Trade, a very important component here. Strategic and ideological bipolarity. So see, this thing happened during the Cold War. Ideological bipolarity. Today you will not see ideological bipolarity. Fukuyama said that end of ideology. He wrote an famous essay when Soviet Union collapsed. In fact, three incidences: the destruction of the Berlin Wall, the fall of Berlin Wall, the failure of Warsaw Pact, and the disintegration of Soviet Union made Francis Fukuyama write that essay, End of Ideology or of End of History, where he said that no new ideology would emerge. Victory of capitalism and democracy is final and decisive. It cannot be reversed. Socialism and communism have lost. Only mere repetitions will happen. He was countered by his guru Samuel P. Huntington, another professor from Harvard University, who said that conflicts will happen mostly based on ideological grounds. Not on ideological, but on identity basis. Religious and cultural factor will contribute to conflicts. Huntington called it clash of civilization. Now, if you see the world today, who stands correct? Huntington or Fukuyama? Conflicts are happening. Are they ideological? Russia's attack on Ukraine, what is the basis of it? Ethnic identity. Pakistan's claim over Kashmir, religious identity. Are you getting it? So conflicts are happening, which tells us the clash of civilization is more accurate than end of ideology. So, and what is arms race? The next word. There is this theory, Friedman gave this theory, that if two countries have nukes, two countries, if they have McDonald's outlets, US will not allow them to go to war. Why? Because war will plunge the economy, the burgers will not sell. So best way to avoid war is to open a McDonald's outlet. But that's not true always. So this theory has also been facing a lot of critical scrutiny that contributes to arm race. India did Pokhran, Pakistan replied. Okay, they also became nuclear state. 1998, 1999 Kargil war happened. So how effective is the nuclear deterrent theory? And is that the only deterrence that we have? Nuclear deterrence, according to the current analyst, only prevents nuclear war. It does not prevent small confrontations, and small scale wars may still happen. Then we see Cold War. Now Cold War is over. Today we are talking about the new Cold War. You see, I have kept the image. You can all identify with this image. You can relate with this image. This is a very recent image. कब की है? SEO summit. So this is said to be what? A counter to the American-led multilateral. Cold War is over, the new Cold War is coming. Okay, it's already happening. It's happening in the field of semiconductors. It's happening in the field of rare earth elements. Okay, so, and which side India stands, that of course we will discuss in the class, that what is India's position, what is balancing option that India offers. So Cold War, you need to know what is Cold War, what was the ideological rift that led to the Cold War, post Second World War, how it happened, okay, what was Iron Curtain. All these terms are part of the original Cold War. Okay, what was this Brezhnev doctrine, which Soviet proliferated? What was Monroe Doctrine and Truman Doctrine, which US proliferated? What is containment policy? These are the things related to Cold War. Now you will not be able to understand new Cold War without knowing the Cold War. And my new questions will not be asked on what were the reasons of Cold War. That is so old. Okay, recent questions will be there. And your syllabus may not have that term. I'll tell you. Syllabus 3 बार मैंने बताया non alignment mention करता है. 2024 का question देखो. What was the question? That India has moved from non-alignment to multi-alignment. Now multi-alignment is not even written in your syllabus. But because the current Indian foreign policy follows multi-alignment, here comes the question. Okay, you understand the need for being aware of what's happening around you. Okay, then you see non-alignment, which I was talking about, aims and achievement. Now, today India says that non-alignment is not the order, multi-alignment is. So, what were India's priority during non-alignment? What were the components? Bandung Conference 1955. India called all the Asian and African countries. India made sure the likes of Sukarno from Indonesia joins non-alignment. India made sure Yasser Arafat, Palestine, PLO becomes a member of non-alignment. India opposed the invasion of Britain, Israel, and France on Egypt because of Suez Canal, 1956. Same year, USSR attacked Hungary, India kept silent because it did not align with the national interest at that time. India opposed Vietnam War. Okay, so all these were components of non-alignment. Okay, pursuing an idealist foreign policy. Today, we are following, thankfully, a more realistic foreign policy than ever. National interest. Okay, and you see it unfolding before you. You see, which talks about multi-alignment. Member of Quad, still closely working with US in Indo-Pacific, also working closely in BRICS and SCO. Member of IMEC, India Middle East European Corridor, where a transport corridor, India is a part, it starts from Mumbai airport, reaches till Notre Dame. Okay, so Middle East would be there, Europe would be there, Americans would be there with India. Simultaneously also a part of INSTC, where Central Asia, Iran and Russia will be there. Working together on Chennai-Vladivostok Maritime Corridor. Okay, so this is what is called multi-alignment. Not offering conflicting options on the same table. That is something that happened during non-alignment. Multi-alignment means I am ready to work with you in spite of our differences. There may be issues with China, but when SEO summit happens, Prime Minister Modi goes there, participates. Okay, China remains the, I think, second largest trading partner of India, despite Galwan Valley. Right? So LAC unsettled issue, but does not stop the trade, does not stop the close working of SCO and BRICS. Okay, both countries, India and China, claim to champion the causes of global south that resonates in BRICS and SCO. So India cannot just part away with it. So this is how your questions are also framed. Then you see collapse of Soviet Union, which we already discussed. What were the reasons for it and what happened after that? The current Russia-Ukraine war, has it anything to do with the collapse of Soviet Union? Putin said something related to it. President Putin said that the collapse of Soviet Union was the greatest tragedy of the last century. And anyone trying to undo it would be the greatest fool. He also said this. But he's trying to build a very strong Eurasian partnership. Okay, he's reaching out to countries like Belarus. Okay, Central Asia, always been a Russian backyard. He is very close to China and very close to India, which he often uses to say that I have friends in Asia outside China. India, the largest democracy of the world. Okay, so collapse of Soviet Union, and then what happened? Unipolarity and American hegemony. See, the syllabus of UPSC mentions this term, American hegemony. Still officially America and US are strategic partners. The exam syllabus has this word American hegemony. Class 12th NCRT, Contemporary World Politics, has a chapter named American hegemony. So what exactly is this American hegemony? How it happens? Is America sending its troops everywhere? What about those places where they have not deployed troops? How are they controlling the narrative over there? So there you will see hegemony also happens through narratives and discourse. Now, in order to understand discourse, you need to understand Gramsci. In order to understand Gramsci, you need to understand Karl Marx. You see the connection between the two papers that you have? Okay. Then you see relevance of non-alignment in the contemporary world. Now today non-alignment manifests where India champions the cause of global south. Okay, third world is no longer the term is global south. Now what India does there, and why global south resonates with India, why they are okay when India says, Dr. Jaishankar has repeatedly said that sitting here in the capacity of representing the global south, and global south takes no objection to it, that yes, he is right, India is right. So what makes them feel secure with India and not with China? Okay, and what India needs to do there to build a consensus? Okay, everything we'll see here. Then the evolution of international economic system. Now here again some part of economics you have to be here. Bretton Woods, that is your IMF and World Bank. WTO functions on David Ricardo's theory of comparative trade advantage. Now who is Ricardo, who is Adam Smith, briefly we will be explaining here. Okay, then socialist economies and the CMEA. What this CMEA was doing for socialists, the second world जिसको कहते थे, USSR and their allies. What was their model? Third world demand for new international economic order. Now here you will see third world metamorphosed into global south. And what they say that we need more representation. We need to have more say in global affairs. You see, at the behest of India, African Union became a member of G20. Delhi Summit 2 years back, 2023. So this is what Global South expects from India. Okay, this is what they want, more representation and more say. Then you see here the globalization of the world economy. Now again see this word is coming 3 times, I told you. So what is this globalization of world economy? Joseph Stiglitz, his Nobel laureate, his famous book Globalization and its Discontent, where he has punctured the claim that globalization does any good to third world countries. He says they are at the receiving end. It's actually the global north which benefits. So this is one side of the story. There is another side to it as well. Okay, if Stiglitz is saying that globalization creates only discontent, there are other groups, other economists who believe that's not the completely true. There is another side to this story as well. So there is no inherent demerit in the process of globalization, but the way it unfolds, okay, which depends on sovereign countries. So we will try to understand both the aspects, the inequity part and how it can become more equitable. Now moving on from here, you see UN. So India again said this 2 years back. India said, Dr. Jaishankar said this, that UN has become anarchonistic. Now what is anarchonistic, what is anarchy? You have to study these things. But why such terms for UN? Envisaged role and actual record. The syllabus itself says why it was formed. What was the reason? Failure of League of the Nation to stop a major war. Let countries cooperate and coordinate among themselves. Let there be no major wars. Has it prevented a major war? That's the success. See, small scale wars have happened. A lot of them have happened. But it has not culminated into Third World War. This is the success of UN. Even in Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine and Iran, you see bilateral conflicts. US came there, but that was very small scale. The bombers that they used, and after informing, I hope you know the truth, Iran informed the likes of Qatar, which Qatar holds the largest American bases in Middle East. So before bombing them, Iran informed, which means the collateral damage should be less. Okay. So actual record is not so good. But UN and its various organizations like WHO. Now US has withdrawn from WHO. A question came in your mains this year on this. How it has been weakened. How is multilateralism weakening? US is contributing to it. Okay. Now what are the demerits? What are the shortcomings in the functioning of UN? And what needs to be done? What India says here. Then specialized agencies, aims and functioning, the need for UN reforms. So various agencies we will try to understand here. We will also see the Bretton Woods and WTO, the relevant ones like WHO, and need for UN reforms. Why we need UN reforms? Because let me tell you a few facts about UN. The UN Charter, which came in 1945, It was to be updated within 10 years. By 55, it has still not been updated. 2025. It still calls countries like Germany, Italy, and Japan as enemy countries. On what basis? And when UN labels these countries, the charter labels these countries as enemy countries, what does that tell you? There is an inherent bias. When the Second World War is over, why are some countries enemy countries? And also inherent biasness and the contemporary irrelevance. Germany, Italy, and Japan are part of the same Anglo-Saxon order which is led by the US. Okay, so that charter is irrelevant, that charter has an inherent bias. That is why we need reforms here, urgent reforms. You need to widen the ambit of Security Council. Okay, there has been no addition. In fact, BRICS is more representative than P5. You see it? BRICS is more representative. P5 में कहाँ की countries है बताओ? US, Europe, Asia, China from Asia, Russia part of Europe only, France, UK and Americans. Now come to BRICS. Asia, Europe, South America, Africa. That's what I said. BRICS is more representative than P5 and even than G7. BRICS is more representative than both P5 and G7. That's why 40 countries are knocking the door of BRICS. It tells us the sense of angst that Global South has against the multilaterals and how India tries to drive it. Everything we will study here connected to UN. Then regionalization of the world politics. Why these regional blocks are emerging? EU, the most successful of all the regional experiments. There is a concept which we will study here, what is called pooled sovereignty. Okay. ASEAN, APEC, APEC, ARC, NAFTA, ye not so successful. BIMSTEC not so successful because no one has gone for pooled sovereignty like Europe, European Union. So what led to the emergence of EU? Brexit happened. Britain withdrew. What is the fate now? France and Germany are holding it. Now they are reaching out to India. Do an FTA. USA has refused to be the net security provider of European Union. So they are looking for options. Okay, will it survive? Will it not? Only the time will tell us. Then ASEAN. And while ASEAN, we will also study BIMSTEC and SARC. Okay, mostly seen close to US, but of late they are mending their ties with China also. Okay, they are quite apprehensive of Quad and India's participation in Indo-Pacific. NAFTA, BAFTA, SAFTA, all these trade blocs, trade associations. In fact, 2023 you got a question on NAFTA. Mexico, Canada and USA, what they are doing for their trade. Then we see contemporary global concern. Now see, again this syllabus was written long back when the concerns were quite different than that of today. But democracy itself is an umbrella term. Many things can come inside democracy, which means though the word is democracy, but I told you it's an umbrella term, which means the off-led democratic movements, the issue of democratic backsliding and democratic backlash. A question came in your exam this year, that the world is witnessing democratic backsliding and democratic backlash. How do you explain this dichotomy? पहले तो ये दोनों वर्ड होते क्या हैं? We have to understand these things. Human rights. Now human rights, now how are they different from natural rights? Natural rights were quite rudimentary. For the first time they were codified in UDHR 1948, just after the Second World War. Universal Declaration of Human Rights we talked about. Now these are all pervasive. They don't depend on country, they don't depend on constitution, society, so on and so forth. We have constitutional rights in the form of Part 3, fundamental rights. Then there are rights outside Part 3 also. You know that Article 300A, 324 and so on, 326, so on and so forth. Environment, gender justice, terrorism, nuclear proliferation. Now when we talk about gender justice, we have to talk about the LGBTQI. Okay, you have to talk, references will be there of the woke movement that is happening, and how they try to come up with what is called the cancel culture, the critical race theory. Okay, now nothing is a part of your syllabus. These words are not mentioned anywhere, but you can expect questions. Okay, why? Because these are umbrella terms. Gender justice. So gender matlab, if you say gender is binary, some people will get angry. This is hate, they say. Donald Trump, in his maiden speech after being elected as the president this time, said this, that there are only two genders. He faced a backlash for that. So, what is gender fluidity? What is critical race theory? How Gramsci hegemony is connected to it? The woke movement and the cancel culture? We will be studying it briefly. Not no need to go into the details of all those movements and all, but what these terms imply, you need to know it. Periphery पर ये सब रहेगा ही रहेगा. Okay. Then you see terrorism. Now here you will know the causes of terrorism. Different people give different causes. What do you think is the reason? Come on, India has witnessed terrorism in its worst form. So what is the cause that you think? Now it depends on whom you ask. Okay, it depends on whom you ask. So liberal theorists would say that terrorism happens because of what? The shortcomings, the deficiencies. They will attribute it to lack of education, lack of poverty, lack of livelihood, lack of opportunities. That's not always true. Osama bin Laden was a billionaire. Hafiz Saeed is a professor. Al-Baghdadi had a PhD. Education, anyone? Now, conservatives say that terrorism is a result of natural stress building, natural process of nation building. When nation building happens, some institutions give way to the, they have to give way to the new institutions. Old orders break, new orders emerge. The people who are privileged lose their privilege. New orders emerge. So some of them resort to terrorism. Now again, not completely wrong. Likes of Amartya Sen, his book Identity and Violence, he says what? He says that it's a result of identity disregard. See, we have multiple identities. Okay, you are born into a certain region, into a certain religion, into a certain caste, you have a certain biological gender, economic strata of society you belong to, certain educational credentials you have. Now, Sen says then when one identity is threatened, it manifests in the form of terrorism. He gives example of Africa, Zulu tribe and Kingali sub-tribe. So when Zulu identity is threatened, it manifests in the form of terrorism. So who is exactly 100% right here? Reminds you of Syadvad of Jainism? Padho Syadvad? Syad Ghata Asti, theory of probability of knowledge. Incomplete truth. So it varies from people to people, varies from country to country, society to society. There can be different reasons. We have to understand all of them and what needs to be done. Then nuclear proliferation, the NPT and the CTBT. Okay, the Australia group and the Wasena, the control regimes. We'll see it and the threat that nuclear proliferation poses to the world. Now from here you start with the paper 2 part B. Okay, paper A, as I told you, is more theoretical, more in alignment with part A of paper 1. Answers, your example have to be recent. When you talk about gender justice, you have to include the homosexual aspect there as well. You have to talk about the critical race theory and to an extent about wokeism. Okay, now this one is your IR. Okay, again rooted in theory. You see Indian foreign policy, determinants of foreign policy. Now not only for India, there are certain universal determinants of foreign policy. Country's size, country's geography, its history and culture. What was the motto that India gave in G20? Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. From where it comes? Kathopanishad. Okay, there are 108 Upanishads. One of them is Kathopanishad. So culture plays an important determinant. Ideology also plays. The government of the day plays a role. The kind of alliances a country has plays a role. Okay, economic policies play a role. The purse that you have, the economic might that you have plays a role. Various factors contribute to determining and also the quality of diplomats. They all play a role. You see the press briefings of MEA, you listen to our foreign secretary Mr. Mikram Misri, you will never see him raising his voice. You will never see foreign minister raising his voice. That's how career diplomats sound. That's how they behave. They do surgery by words. Okay. So pinpointed, precise briefers are there. The other one from other country may be blabbering. Their response will never be such. Measured tone and precision. Okay. So all, that's why I said quality of diplomats. So all these contribute to determining the foreign policy. Institutions of policy making, mostly it will be MEA here. Okay, and certain think tanks linked to MEA like ORF. Heard of ORF? Organization Research Foundation. Together MEA and ORF conduct Raisina dialogue. Now, India's contribution to the non-alignment movement. Again, you see non-alignment coming here. Okay. What made India toe this line? What was the belief of first Prime Minister Nehru? Okay. And did India really gain some friends there? Of course it did. But during China war, none of them stood by India's side. So that led to the change in the approach of India also. Realism creeped in after the 62 war. Then you see movement, current role, non-alignment movement, different phases. Different phases, era of foreign policy has passed through at least 6 phases. Initial phases, 47 to 62 you can say. Optimistic non-alignment it is, where India was trying to consolidate its integrity and sovereignty. Okay. China war will end this phase and there the realism will creep in. Era of realism will start 62 onwards. India will start taking decisions which it had not taken earlier. Ramp up its security. This phase will last till 71. 71 to 91 is the third phase. Era of greater Indian regional assertion. You will not imagine in early 50s that India will intervene in East Pakistan. It did in 71, created a new country. It sent troops to Sri Lanka. Of course, and misadventure it was not to be done, but it did. It sent troops to Maldives. I wonder if you know it. Operation Cactus, 1988. We saved the president of Maldives. We tried to do in Sri Lanka. Operation Pumalai and all, LTT and all. So this thing was unthinkable maybe 10 years back. Greater Indian regional assertion I'm talking about. 1991, the next phase will start with the advent of globalization. Okay, India will open the doors of its economy. It will become a lucrative market. The demand that India generates is unparalleled. 1999, the fifth phase will start because China will start emerging as the second pole after a unipolar world. India is required to balance China there. So balancing power, 1999 to 2013, India is becoming a balancing power. And 14 onwards, as Dr. Jaishankar calls it, era of energetic engagement. A question came in your mains this year. Question came in your mains this year on this. Okay, exact word they have used this, energetic diplomacy. So we study these things, then India and South Asia, so regional SAARC, past performance and future prospect. Now when we discuss SAARC, by default we have to discuss BIMSTEC. Okay, because BIMSTEC is often perceived as an alternative to SAARC, although government of India denies this. Okay, although government of India denies this, but we have to see it. Now South Asia as a free trade area. See, the thing is, South Asia में word regional है ही नहीं. It cannot become a regional association because this remains the least integrated region in the world. Politically, economically, administratively, connectivity wise, so on and so forth. Our connectivity projects are still in shambles because of various reasons. Then you see, look east, it is written. But now India is practicing act east. Now, why look is emerged in 91, why it has been 92 precisely, why it has been revamped as Act East in 2015. And Act East is actually response of India to the threats emerging from China. Here we will also study the Sagar and Mahasagar doctrine. Okay, the recent one is Mahasagar doctrine, the three concentric circle that India makes there. We'll try to understand it. Then impediment to regional cooperation, why it is not happening? Because the geography of this subcontinent and South Asia, the way Britishers left it, is in a mess. Okay, river water dispute with some country. Which country? Not so much with China. Pakistan and Bangladesh, Tista river has still not been solved. अब तो लग भी नहीं रहा solve होगा with the current regime there. Quite hostile towards India. Indus water, we will see it in details what it was. Of course, the Brahmaputra issue is there. Okay. Then illegal cross-border migration. You know what we are talking about. Which country? Bangladesh. It is often said that Bangladesh is India's Mexico problem. Okay. Myanmar also. Ethnic conflicts. Which one? Myanmar. And its repercussions in northeast of India. Manipur का पता नहीं है क्या? So we will see how this free movement regime क्या है म्यांमार के साथ. Why it was closed. How the Kukis and the Mizos have some ethnic similarity from that side. Chins from Myanmar, they share some ethnic similarity with people living on our side. The Nagas on both sides. Longwa village is Nagaland is shared by Myanmar also. Okay. So when you have such a geography, such close ethnicity divided by border, of course, some issues that happen here, you cannot remain oblivion to it. Are you studying it? Then you see border dispute and the global south. Now the word comes here, global south. Okay, because this has become quite famous parlance in India's diplomacy now. Okay, repeatedly India is saying that I am the representative of global south. देखो भाषा बदली है 2 साल में. India says Vishwa Bandhu, no more Vishwa Guru. Friend to all. That's the right way to put it. Okay. Then relations with Africa and Latin America. Now why increasing stress on Africa? Resources, of course one reason is there, but see Africa shares the colonial legacy with India. Okay, they see India as their own, the fellow sufferers. India के जेब में पैसा आ गया, इनके पास नहीं आया. And with China, traditionally they have traded with West, US and Europe. Now China is reaching there, but China damages them more. Damages them and trade distortions are happening. China's deals are not consensus oriented, so they want to reach out to India. India is also reaching out to them. लैटिन अमेरिका, ये कहाँ से आया? लैटिन अमेरिका जब हम पढ़ते हैं, आई डिस्कस अबाउट दिस थिंग, समथिंग कॉल्ड गोल्डीलॉक्स जोन्स. कहाँ पढ़े इसके बारे में? ज्योग्राफी में, इन्वायरमेंट में, राइट? व्हाट इज दैट गोल्डीलॉक्स जोन्स? Life exists. So life exists in Latin America. That's why we are calling it Goldilocks zone. See, compare this region with West. Where do you have a greater market? In Western countries or in Latin America? In Western countries. But where do you have more tantrums? कि तुम्हारा product खराब है. West. Where do you have high regulations? West. Competition भी है, regulation भी है, and expectations, I call them tantrums. They are also high. On the other hand, you said Africa, resource rich country. Will they throw tantrums? तुम्हारा product अच्छा नहीं, अरे anything that you have here, our product will compete. Okay, so they will not, and the competition is low there, expectation is low there. Are you getting it? But law and order is also low. Absence of rule of law, 2013 से अभी तक 33 coup attempts have happened in Africa. Who will put its money there? Purchasing power नहीं है उनके पास. They are poor countries. किसको बेचोगे? क्या बेचोगे? Latin America emerges as a Goldilocks zone between, on one hand, you have Western countries, highly competitive, high product expectations, okay, highly regulated, lot of tantrums, that is expectation. On the other hand, you have Africa, good resources, good demand, purchasing power is low, absence of rule of law. In between, you have Latin America, far better than Africa in terms of law and order, purchasing power, and far better than West when it comes to expectations. Better मतलब इंडिया के लिए better, दुनिया के लिए नहीं. वो नहीं ड्रामा करेंगे कि तुम्हारे अल्फांसो में कीड़ा लग गया हुआ है. कीड़ा नहीं लगा है. The mango fell and it became black. Wash it off and eat it. We do it all the time. Understanding it. They rejected India's BD also. Why? BD, जानते हैं BD? So they rejected BD saying that India uses child labor in manufacturing BD. The fact of the matter is, children, small kids playing in the countryside, they play, they pick up the dried tendu leaves. No child labor is used. They banned Indian BD because it was creating a dent in their cigarette market. ये होता है non-tariff barrier, which also you have to discuss here. Okay, so that is why India is focusing. अभी 2015 में, when Modi government became 1 year old, right? So MEA was directed by PMO. MEA and PMO, they closely work. So they said that let us take out the world map. See the countries where we have not gone for a long time. कहाँ नहीं गए जरा पता करो. Sri Lanka, Modi ji went there in 2015, the first visit by an Indian PM in 28 years. तुम्हारा immediate neighborhood है. 28 साल लगे प्रधानमंत्री को जानने में. Nepal 18 years. These are some facts that I am spitting. Latin America कोई गया ही नहीं कभी. Geography, language barrier, but you need to reach out to these countries. Okay, so when that assessment was done in 15, people who were doing it were shocked that we have not been to, no PM has gone to Sri Lanka in 28 years. Any wonder China made inroads there? Any wonder they got Hambantota on 99-year lease? Of course, lot of things happen in between. Matala Rajapaksha Airport they have created a terminal near Colombo, artificial islands they are creating, debt trap they have फंसा दिया ना Sri Lanka को. They want access to Indian Ocean. Chinese do this. Desperately they want. They will do it to Sri Lanka. And when India remains aloof to this immediate neighbor. So you see energetic engagement इसलिए कहा जा रहा है. Okay. Then another thing you can see here, the relations with Africa, leadership role in the demand for NIO and WTO negotiation. So how India negotiates the Doha round of WTO, where it all started, India showed its man. Although it is criticized also, देखो हम भी subsidies देते हैं और दबा के देते हैं. Okay, fertilizer subsidies contributes to the significant chunk of government expenditure. WTO, see, अगर मैं अपना इंडियन थोड़ा एक दिन के लिए, एक थोड़े टाइम के लिए इंडियननेस को कब करूं, so I don't think WTO is altogether wrong. They are saying phase it out eventually, don't do it immediately. Phase it out eventually, but you don't. बात तो करो, इंडिया थोड़ा disrupt कर देता है वहाँ पे. How and what, I'll tell you the details when we'll study this. Then next thing, India and the global centers of power. Now see which centers it mentions. US, EU, Japan, China and Russia. 3 of them are great powers. US, China and Japan. US, China and Russia, not Japan. Japan, because of its demography, is not a great power. They don't have the control. They don't have the population. Okay, without population you cannot become great power. कितना भी मिलिट्री हो जाए. किसमें? बिल्कुल करेगी. सी टेरिटरी छोटी ऐसे नहीं मतलब है, ब्रिटिश टेरिटरी कितनी बड़ी थी, बट ब्रिटिश कंट्रोल्ड द सीज. Okay, they ruled USA, they ruled Australia. Are you getting it? Yes, landlocked countries will remain weak. Afghanistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Mongolia. ये अगर सी का एक्सेस है तो very high chances if you maneuver well, you can become a great power depending on many factors. Okay.
UPSC Mains demands more than just knowledge, it requires the art of presenting that knowledge clearly, concisely, and convincingly on paper. Without the right approach, even well-prepared content can fall short. You need structured guidance to overcome bottlenecks and translate your preparation into well-structured, impactful answers. Visionai S present a specially curated offline and online masterclasses for answer writing in Delhi. It offers 5 focus sessions to build strong answer writing fundamentals, craft impactful introductions and conclusions, use examples, data and illustrations effectively, practice through live demonstrations, receive personalized feedback on evaluated assignments, learn proven strategies from UPSC toppers. Attend the free orientation on 18th August, with the classes starting from 19th August at 5 p.m.
Then you see India and UN system, UN peacekeeping, how India contributes there, what all India says, demand for permanent seat. This theme we have already examined. Here in details we'll see it, why India deserves to be there, the reasons. Then India and the nuclear question, changing perception, the no first use policy. And India often says that we are reconsidering it. We are thinking of reconsidering it. इतने पर ही हल्ला हो जाता है कि are they trying to nuke and this and that, it will set up the arms race. Okay, so again that question, is nuclear deterrence a credible deterrence? I've already told you the answer. Nuclear is a deterrence only against nuclear weapons, not conventional weapons, and you can see ample examples. Then you see recent developments in Indian foreign policy. What is the recent development? Wahi multi-alignment. Okay, multi-alignment with lot of dose of realism and pragmatism, reaching out to countries like never before. Okay, leaving a footprint. Position on recent crisis in Afghanistan, Iraq and West Asia. देखो ये अभी भी recent है, सिलेबस बहुत पहले लिखा गया था, but still Afghanistan, you know what is happening there. Taliban 2.0 has emerged, and India, I am telling you, within a year will establish diplomatic ties with Taliban. We have already received their foreign minister Amir Khan Muqtaki. He was welcomed by our foreign secretary Mr. Vikram Misri. Consular access they will have in Bombay very soon. I am telling you, this Taliban has more acceptance than its earlier avatar. Okay, so diplomatic ties will happen, and that's the need of the hour also. We cannot yield space to other countries in Afghanistan. India remains the 4th largest donor in Afghanistan. You cannot just sacrifice everything because Taliban are bad. Good कौन है ये बताओ? How good is Xi Jinping? कितना डेमोक्रेसी देते हैं Xi Jinping? How good is Ayatollah Khomeini? Dare you protest in Iran? How good is Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia? I'm not talking about their personal attributes. Are they democratic? Then will you not reach out to them? So in IR, no room for ethics and morality. इस सब पेपर 4 में ethics में कर लेना ये सब. Subject that I teach has no scope for morality and ethics. Does not mean realists are immoral animals. ऐसा भी नहीं है. यहाँ भी कुछ है. Okay, we'll see that. So next thing you see here, recent crisis, Afghanistan, then again Iraq. Iraq we will combine with West Asia only. Okay, West Asia, multi hodgepodge is going on. Israel versus Palestine, Israel versus Iran. Okay, Saudi Arabia versus Iran. Syrian crisis, the fall of Assad, the emergence of STS. Who is the president? Syrian president, the recent one? no need to recall the name, just to tell you a fact, this person was working with Islamic State. Yes, he was an Islamic State member. He's the Al Qaeda in Taliban commander in chief. He's the one who created all this Al Qaeda and IS module. Now he's the president. He met Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia. Okay. So what are the options for India here? India bought Assad was relatively good. Now why Assad is gone? And whom have you brought? Assad was reaching out to India for energy deals and everything. India and China have a joint stake in a Syrian oil company. Do you know this? Okay. So what will happen in West Asia? This is one big question, this entire region. A lot of hodgepodge is happening here. On one end, you have the Sunni Arab monarchs led by the likes of Saudi Arabia. On the other side, you have Shia theocratic Iran led by Ayatollah Khomeini. Now they keep plotting against each other. And Iran fights through what is called its axis of resistance. The influence of Iran extends beyond its border. Islamic militias, Hamas, Hezbollah, Ansar Allah, इस्लामिक जिहाद, ये सब इसको कौन फ्यूल करता है? ईरान करता है. क्या करता है उससे? अवॉइड्स एनी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट टू कम टू इट्स बॉर्डर. पहली बार हुआ है कि इजराइल इन्वेडेड ईरान दिस टाइम. ऑक्टोपस डॉक्ट्रिन, नेफ्ताली बेनेट ने कहा था कि वी हैव बीन फाइटिंग ऑक्टोपस टेंटैकल्स, वी नीड टू हिट द ऑक्टोपस ऑन इट्स हेड. हेड मतलब ईरान. दे ट्राइड बट दे कुड नॉट सक्सीड. ईरान हिजबुल्लाह में कुछ तो डिफरेंस है. ओके, देन ये तो एक लड़ाई है. दूसरी लड़ाई, टर्की इज असर्टिंग इटसेल्फ अंडर प्रेसिडेंट रिसेप तैयप एर्दोगान. He wants to revive the Ottoman glory. He wants to take the leadership position of the Sunni Arab world from Saudi Arabia. Okay. Then you have Syrian crisis. So lots of crises, the emergence of Islamic State. Now what India should do here? A tightrope walking India is doing here. Tightrope walking. With Israel, the cooperation is an all-time high. Natural ally बोलते हैं. दोस्त है, भाई है, ऐसे इमोशंस है. But also with Iran. Okay, we have hosted Iran's foreign minister also. And India has not dumped the Palestinian cause. India still calls for a two-state solution to the West Asian original sin जो है Palestinian problem. Okay, so all this from multiple angles we need to analyze. Now, growing relations, again the same thing. It started from 1991 when India knocked the superpower, knocked the doors that we want to be with you. 1991, the Consulate General of Israel was established in Bombay, later on upgraded to full embassy in New Delhi. Okay, why? Because you need to have good ties with these people. Why? Again, many reasons are there. Security, technological, intelligence, you need your weapons, many things. Then a vision of a new world order. The new world order, the World Economic Forum often talks about this. The new world order. What exactly it is and how India finds itself placed there. Okay. Now, see some questions. Briefly, I'll discuss this just to give you a glimpse. Now, see this off late. These two questions are from your this year. Already I talked about this. 5-10 minutes we'll finish it off. Okay. See the first question. Of late, centrist and center-left political parties have been facing setbacks, while center-right parties have been in ascendancy in the world over. What a great question this is. This is happening all around you. अच्छा, सेंटर लेफ्ट सेंटर राइट, पहले तो जानना पड़ेगा लेफ्ट और राइट किसको बोलते हैं. एंड लेफ्ट एंड राइट कैटेगराइजेशन इनटू टू. पॉलिटिकल लेफ्ट अलग है, इकोनॉमिक लेफ्ट अलग है. Political right is different, economic right is different. There are attributes which you need to learn. Now, why we are witnessing the rise of right in the world? Security and economy. कहाँ right आ गया जरा बताओ? हाँ, where do you see the right? ये बताओ. Agree with you, the countries. इंडिया में राइट लेफ्ट है ही नहीं. These are not Indian construct. देखो अगेन आपने बोला ना कि बीजेपी राइट, बीजेपी इकोनॉमिक राइट हो सकती है थोड़ा, बट कहाँ इकोनॉमिक राइट भी कहाँ, सब्सिडीज नहीं तो रहे हैं. मैक्सिमम गवर्नमेंट, मैक्सिमम गवर्नेंस, मिनिमम गवर्नमेंट मोदी जी बोलते हैं. रोलिंग बैक, और इसने मैंने कहा इकोनॉमिक राइट रिफॉर्म्स ऑफ ऑल द इमेजेस ऑफ प्राइम मिनिस्टर, वन इमेज इज दैट ही इज प्रो रिफॉर्म्स. You are right there, you are right, but as I told you, the right left construct does not exist in India. बीजेपी का मैनिफेस्टो पढ़ो, उसमें लिखा हुआ है डेमोक्रेटिक सोशलिज्म, गांधीयन सोशलिज्म. दीनदयाल उपाध्याय व्हाट दे कॉल इंटीग्रल ह्यूमनिज्म, वो कहीं पर नहीं लिखा है फ्री मार्केट कैपिटलिज्म. ओके, तो दुनिया की बात करते हैं. इंडिया थोड़ा अलग चलता है. इंडिया को हम लोग पढ़ेंगे ऑफ कोर्स कि इंडिया में राइट लेफ्ट का क्या कंस्ट्रक्ट है. ये आपको आईजीपी में पढ़ना है. पेपर 1 पार्ट बी में ये पढ़ना है. बीजेपी का क्या है, कांग्रेस का क्या है, लेफ्ट पार्टीज का क्या है, रीजनल पार्टी, ये है कास्ट, एथनिसिटी, ये सब है पार्ट ऑफ योर सिलेबस. देयर यू विल नो कि एक्चुअल में लेफ्ट राइट, लेफ्ट तो है बट राइट नहीं है इंडिया में एज इट एग्जिस्ट इन अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. ओके, उस तरह का राइट इंडिया में नहीं है. नाउ कंट्रीज लाइक नेदरलैंड्स, countries like Italy, Giorgia Meloni has won a second term. Her party is an open supporter of Mussolini. Macron in France won the second term. From center left, he's turning towards right now. तो क्या reasons हैं? तो एक जैसा तुमने सही बोला, security reasons. Okay. Advent of the migrants who are taking away the livelihoods and jobs. Plus, what center left liberals promised, people are seeing they are not being fulfilled. ओके, तो इसीलिए राइज ऑफ राइट हो रहा है दुनिया में. आर यू गेटिंग इट? यूरोप इज टर्निंग मोर इनवर्ड्स, स्पेशली आफ्टर ब्रेक्सिट. आर यू गेटिंग इट? माइग्रेंट से प्रॉब्लम हो रहे हैं लोगों को. अभी देखो ब्रिटेन में 2 लड़कियों को पकड़ा गया बिकॉज दे वर ट्राइंग टू डिफेंड देमसेल्फ अगेंस्ट द माइग्रेंट. सेम थिंग इन यूएस. डोनाल्ड ट्रंप, राइट? ओके. So there are reasons, several attributes, and see how wonderfully this question is framed. Comment. So you have to write down all the factors. इसमें 10-12 point आ जाएंगे आराम से. Okay. Then you see this which I was talking about. Same this year 15+5 मतलब specify कर रहा है कि last वाला जो part है वो 5 नंबर में आपको बताना है. Critically analyze the different phases of India's foreign policy since independence. ग्रेटर इंडिया रीजनलाइजेशन, एरा ऑफ ऑप्टिमिस्टिक नॉन अलाइनमेंट, सारे फेज आपको बताने पड़ेंगे. 6 फेजेस हैं. ओके, देन दिस थिंग, हाउ जस्टिफाइड डू यू थिंक इज एस जयशंकर्स क्लासिफिकेशन ऑफ द करंट फेज एनर्जेटिक डिप्लोमेसी? डिड आई टेल यू? तो एनर्जेटिक डिप्लोमेसी कैसे है? बिकॉज द रीच आउट इज लाइक नेवर बिफोर. MEA दो अंडर स्टाफ्ड इज वर्किंग अ लॉट, सो इज PMO. Divisions are being created in MEA. We have a West Asia division. We need to have an Arctic division also. China and Russia are already there with USA. Great powers are there. You want to compete with them, you need to have an Arctic division in MEA. Have one for ASEAN. Have one for Central Asia. Okay, यही है energetic diplomacy. And of course, focus on energy security. The reason India imports the Russian oil, imports the oil from Russia. Okay. Then you see, this was last year. Discuss the relevance of normative ethos. See, again a wonderful question, that's why I have kept it. Of the NAM in magnifying India's soft power in pursuit of key term समझो. Normative ethos, कहाँ का? Non-aligned, soft power, national interest. Now, relevance of normative ethos of NAM. So NAM, what are normative ethos? These are values. Europe is a great normative power. They normalize something. They normalize things like democracy, inclusiveness, plurality, human rights, so on and so forth. And they say our definition should be the universal one. So when World Bank says, I'll give you loan if you are doing well in terms of good governance. Now, what is good governance? Who defines this? And why would good governance be same for US, India, and Africa? But because of the normative idiom, what they are saying, what I say should be your definition also. So what was the normative ethos of NAM? क्या इसमें निकाल सकते हैं बताओ? India opposed racism and colonialism during NAM days because India suffered it. India was about advocating participation of all countries, creating an equitable world order, disarmament. यही सब थे ना इंडिया के normative ethos during NAM. Now how it magnifies India's soft power in pursuit of NAM. तो तब के जो हैं NAM, the normative ethos of NAM, how are they currently magnifying, increasing India's soft power? कैसे कर रहा है? आज भी तो हम ग्लोबल साउथ को रीच आउट कर रहे हैं ना. Today India says, proudly claims that I am the net security provider in Indian Ocean region. We have our doctrines of Sagar and Mahasagar for all these countries. Not only from a hegemon called China protecting you, but also against the natural calamities that will happen. We created our NDRF. We have the capability to evacuate people. Not every island country has this. We send them signals, we transport them, we evacuate them. We earn goodwill also. Okay. We are the one who included African Union in G20. Currently knocking the doors of UNP5, make it more equitable, make it more inclusive. Are you getting it? So same ethos currently also being practiced, enhancing India's soft vaccine diplomacy. India gave vaccine to more than 100 countries. India is the one responsible for South Asian space satellite. Okay. We have gifted Maldives so many things. We have gifted Sri Lanka so many things. नेपाल भूटान तो छोड़ ही दो, तो बस इंस्ट्रूमेंट ऑफ एक्सेशन साइन नहीं किया. सब लिखना मतलब. Are you understanding it? So how India's neighborhood first policy, Act East policy, all these things, how they क्या है ये? वही तो normative idiom है. वसुधैव कुटुंबकम. Entire world is one family. What can be more inclusive than this? इससे ज्यादा इंक्लूसिव सेकुलर और इम्बाइबिंग और क्या होगा? Are you understanding these things? So that is what this question is beautifully framed. Now see this last one. What do you mean by offensive and defensive realism? Now why this question came in 23? Let us try to understand. Because the greatest scholar of IR in USA, Professor John Mearsheimer, heard of him? He has authored wonderful books, The Tragedy of Great Powers, How States Think. Now, he said he predicted Ukraine war in 2016, that something like this is bound to happen. And he is what he calls an offensive realist. Mearsheimer is offensive realist. Kenneth Waltz is a defensive realist. Now Mearsheimer predicted Russia-Ukraine war way back in 2016. उनका 3 घंटे का लेक्चर है यूट्यूब पे, कभी सुन लेना. ओके, किसी स्टैनफोर्ड या हार्वर्ड में कहीं दे रहे थे. Now 2022 the war happened. 23 the question came. And he said that this is what offensive realists do. We predict based on realism, offensive realism, that nations will do these things. Defensive बोलते कि nations will cooperate. He says no. War will happen in order to prevent itself, in order to protect itself. Okay, when NATO is encircling, okay, not giving credible security guarantees to Russia, it's bound to happen. Are you understanding? Any doubt that you have, please quickly ask. Anything you want to know? Sources and all, which book to read, which... See, if you are in class, you need to read the notes and the material that will be provided. There will be a lot of articles, there will be some videos we'll be sharing with you, and of course notes will be there. No other source. Okay. But yes, you have to be very keen. You need to like this subject first of all. Syllabus being huge is not a problem at all. I am telling you, mathematics syllabus is small. ले लो. नहीं लोगे, right? Sanskrit syllabus is also small. Urdu syllabus is also small. Cannot. So syllabus does not make much of a difference when you are choosing your optional. There need to be 4-5 factors. First thing, your interest in that subject. Just 5 more minutes. Your interest in that subject. So if you are very good at number crunching, that comes naturally to you, take mathematics. No issues. अगर ऐसा कुछ है तो ले लो फिर. अच्छा मैथ्स है तो फिर यहाँ क्या कर रहे हो? अच्छा तुम्हारे साथ आ गया. जीटीबी नगर में कहाँ की क्लास? अच्छा वो जीटीबी सेंटर में है. ओके 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 ठीक है. चलो एनलाइटन योरसेल्फ. गुड. सो बेसिस क्या होता है कि इफ यू हैव सो मच इंटरेस्ट एंड एक्सपर्टीज इन दैट सब्जेक्ट दैट यू थिंक दैट आई एम हैविंग गुड कंट्रोल, आई नीड टू टेक दिस सब्जेक्ट. ठीक है, ऑल योर्स. Most of us don't have that expertise and all. So then you go for the word that I told you, pragmatism. American foreign policy इसी word के इर्द गिर्द revolve करती है. Whatever is good for me, I'll do it. कैसे pragmatism होगा? How much it matches with my GS? No more than this subject. ऐसा कोई subject है नहीं जो GS से इतना match करेगा. Your entire paper 2 GS is a subset of PSIR. Except for some part of governance. Let me be honest. Social audit, citizen charter, RTI तो नहीं, civil services, corruption, ये सब बस नहीं. NGO ये सब पॉल साइंस में उतना नहीं है. वो तो है ही यार, पॉलिटी तो पूरा ही है. 73rd 74th अमेंडमेंट IGP में लिखा हुआ है. अरे ओके. सो सेकेंड इज, हाँ, सेकेंड फैक्टर इज योर overlapping with GS. Third factor is availability of resources, which includes guidance, which includes classroom, which includes proper tests, which includes study material. Okay, so these should be the factors which will help you decide your optional, take your call, and no need to fish for resources if you are here. More than sufficient. Any other thing? Okay then, all the best.